Welcome back to this tutorial. So now that you have learned how to iterate over data frames or data points in a data frame, I want us to perform a kind of a more complicated task, although it's not that complicated. It's just a simple task, but it's more of demanding, and it will help you to kind of hit the point home by using or performing analysis in your data set. And this is the kind of operations that you'll be doing on your day-to-day work or your day-to-day research. So the key task here is we have got a data frame called countries, and we want to perform a simple analysis here, or basically a simple operation that will take the population of this country and divide it by area, and it will tell us how many people are living per square kilometer. So if you are keen enough, you realize that basically what we are doing is calculating the population density. In other words, the concentration of people living in a given area. So we can do that here. Let me change this to Markdown, and I will also show you something interesting in Jupyter Notebook. So can you just type calculate population density? Yes, and then go to images. I'll copy this. So you can literally copy images and paste it in your Jupyter Notebooks. Change this to Markdown. Make sure it's Markdown. Yeah. Then just do Control V. You'll have your image there. So population density is calculated using this formula: number of people over land area. If you look at your data set here, you have got the number of people in terms of population and the area for each country. So we need to create a third or a fourth column here that will store the values of the population density that we are going to calculate. So it's a pretty much complex or a simple task, but good for understanding. So the first thing you want to do, as you realize, is to create an extra column, and I told you how to do that. So the data frame name is Africa, and then you want to create an empty column. So the empty column name is population density. I've used underscore density, and then equal sign, then just opening and closing quotations without anything inside. So this is the syntax for creating an empty data frame. So run this and just confirm that your empty data frame is created. Please do not run it twice. If you run it twice, you risk having a second empty data frame until you reset your Jupyter Notebook. So you don't want to run into that problem. So now that I've got an empty population density column, the key task now is to loop through each of these data points. So we are going to write a code that will go to the first point, take the population of Kenya, divide by the area, and then populate it on the population density. Then it does the same for Nigeria, Ethiopia, Namibia, until the last one, Liberia. So it will do that and then save those results under the column population density, so that at the end of the day, this column is not empty. So to do that, we are going to extensively I want us to use this approach here where we are using range. So as you realize, we can say for this case, let's use I. Simple to write for I in, again, you remember the syntax, in range. So we're going to do range and the opening and closing bracket, and then do length to calculate the length of the data frame, opening and closing bracket, again, the name of the data frame, then shift enter. Then, as my good practice, first of all, I just make sure that my loop is running correctly and print I to see if the loop is running. Remember, I can be anything, but if you do I here, make sure everything here is also I, consistency. So you can see it's running well. The last data point is 10, which is true. Now, if I want to make sure that everything inside population density is populated, first of all, I will call it the population density column. So to do that, you remember we learned that first of all, the name of the data frame, Africa, and then we are interested in this column population density, which is a string, and then dot lock, then in. So everything inside here is simply I. So it's gonna be I, and then whatever is there, you want it to fill each point. So I basically is what I'm saying here is make sure that for every time you run this loop, go to population density column, and I here fill it with some values that you are going to tell it how to fill it. So the values to fill it will be Africa, which, and then column name, it's going to be population, because we are dividing population from our formula population by land area. So the number of people is the same as the population. Dot loc I. Then I again. Why? Because you are only taking one population at a time. You're not taking the whole of this. So population I. Then in the next iteration, population I. So like that, divide by Africa again. Same syntax, but this time area. Paste it there. Of course, dot loc I. So now that you have that, maybe I can have this under bracket so that it's no need. So it's a pretty long code. Enter. So once I do that, I can run my code. So let's go through it again one more time. So you are telling Python that take my data frame, calculate the length of the data frame, which is 10. So go through each of the data points. So it's gonna go to the first data point, second up to the 10th one. If you go to the first point, take the value of the first point, which is population. So the first point in this instance is gonna be this, and then divide by the first data point under area, this, and then store that results in the first point under population density, which is this, and it's empty at that point. Then it does that. Then it goes to the second point, which is 1. Again, it does the same thing. It takes the point under 1, divide by the second point under area, which is 1 again, and then paste it under the empty one, which is 1. So it keeps on doing that until the last point. And if I run this code, it's going to populate each of this data. So you can see it's throwing error. It's not an error, but it's basically telling me that my Jupyter is outdated, but that doesn't matter. It has run. If you go and run Africa, you will find that the data frame has been populated. So it has calculated, basically divided this with the area and stored it under population density. And once you do that, you can literally save it as a data frame. Once you do this, you have got your data frame that has been populated. You can save it as a CSV file by just doing Africa to CSV tab, opening and closing bracket, and then give it a name. So I can say pop density.csv. If you run this, it's gonna save your file as a data frame, and it stores it under the document where you have stored your Jupyter notebook. So in my case, it should be on the documents where it's stored. So if you look at mine, here it is. Here it is. So here is my data set stored under a CSV file. So you realize now you can do lots of stuff with that file. You can export it to other programs and do nice plots. So that is what I wanted to show you. It's a bit heavy, but I hope you learned something about this, and you're gonna do this for most of the time. Again, please don't watch the video without subscribing. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Share, subscribe, and like the video. Until next time, bye bye.